Recording. We're back. We're back. I want
We
to
are.
do like in old Top Gear episodes. There used to be when they'd been off, for the end of the season. Jeremy Clarkson used to like wait for the applause to die down, and then he'd be like, "We're back." They're like doing that. It's been a little while.
Hmm.
It's been a hot
Hmm.
minute since
God, it has been. It's been like,
since we. It's been since October. Is the last time we did one of these things.
yeah, wow, like a good memory.
Yes. Well, good memory, and also the fact that I checked. But
Helps.
nonetheless, it does help to check. And well, I was about to introduce the episode, but I feel like that should be your duty because
Yes, seeing
it
as
was your recommendation last time.
it's
So
my recommendation for. I guess it's. Yeah, I'll say it as a trilogy because I said it as a trilogy. The first three Pirates of the Caribbean movies. We ignored the other two. Well,
technically we ignored them, but I had a
half and
couple of
half.
spare days. I was on holiday, and so I decided
Exactly.
to watch the other two. I didn't take any notes for them, but I figured at the end, if you've seen them at any point in your life, we
I
can
have
just
seen
sort
them,
of do.
so
We can just sort of do like a roundup discussion of both of them and talk about them like briefly, but not in the same level of depth that we're going to go into. But yes, so whenever you're ready, why don't you
yes.
introduce us to the series, to the films that we're going to be discussing? Take it away.
We'll just start where it all began with Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl
Yes,
from 2003, if I remember correctly.
that is indeed correct.
Starring big names. We've got Johnny Depp. I think this is one of Orlando Bloom's first big ones, and I think it's also one of the first big Keira Knightley.
Yeah, well,
ones
she
where
was
she's a
very young
main.
in this. It might have been her
Yeah,
feature debut, but I'm not certain on that. Don't quote me.
I won't. And the probably one of my favorite characters in my favorite actors in the movie, which is Geoffrey Rush, who is probably has some of the best lines in the entire movie, or entire series for that matter.
Yes.
The movie starts off it starts originally like, I assume it's meant to be like, I don't know, 20 years before or something, that the opening shot. You have it's meant to be Keira Knightley's character, Elizabeth Swann.
Yes.
She's like, they're coming over from England to Port Royal, which is in Jamaica, I think, which is an actual real place, I believe.
Yeah, I did wonder that.
And as part of it, I think it's her dad, which I don't know if he has an actual name. He's always just referred to as Governor Swan. And then there's I guess one of the main antagonists of this movie, or will become one of the main antagonists, which is I think at the start he's technically a Lieutenant Norrington, but I think he then becomes Commodore Norrington. And then there's the early bit with Master Gibbs. He's also there for right at the start. And the main bit of this is they're coming through, and there's like like a destroyed lot of ships. And this is where we are introduced to do they actually mention the Black Pearl in this thing? At the start? I feel like they do say, I think there's a bit where Gibbs says, "Oh, there's only one ship that could do this, the Black Pearl," and they all go, "Oh, it's just
that's right.
it's
just a legend,
like a make-believe story, like it's like a ghost or something." Well, we'll get to that bit. But out of the shipwreck is probably
like a little boy.
A little boy who is probably the second most important character in this entire franchise, William Turner. And they bring him aboard the ship, and he's got on his person, he's got a necklace of Aztec gold, which is a little cliche for a pirating thing.
We can get into that in a minute.
Very true, very true. So, that's the initial, I guess, flashback scene to start us off. What we have was first that opening. Yeah, there's the opening bit where Will is like a blacksmith's like apprentice.
Yeah, pretty much.
And he's like delivering a sword to like the governor's house. What is going to be given to Norrington as part of his promotion, whatever it's called, like to being a Commodore, and then there's the whole bit where Governor Swan is with Elizabeth. There's the whole like joke about this, like they give her like a corset and it's like brushing her ribs or something, which comes in later. And while this is all happening, you also have Captain Jack Sparrow in the really quite like a famous opening bit where he's coming in as his ship is like sinking.
Yeah, yeah. It's a pretty iconic introduction.
Gives the character, which I think I saw a lot of bits about how Johnny Depp was. Well, it's a funny thing I actually heard about him. They're all talking about how he really got into the character and was really making the character, which it definitely shows, right? And there's this interview I looked at, so I like to sometimes look at the kind of interviews and kind of production things of the movies we look at, right? Funny enough, and this point will come up, they were asking, oh, how did you make the character of Jack Sparrow? What did you kind of base it on? Is there anything you based it on? And he was like, you know, when I don't know why I'm doing his voice, I can't do it, but he was saying, I bet when you think about pirates, they're like the rock and roll stars of the 1800s. I'm like, I mean, I guess, yeah. And then he said, "Who's the best rock and roll star ever?" Keith Richards.
Well, we'll get to that.
Well, we will get to that, but it's very self-evident throughout these movies that he does put a lot of thought and a lot of work into the character of Captain Jack Sparrow.
Yes, and I guess like on that front, that's sort of like one of the big things that I'm gonna sort of be repeating in our discussions of these films is that like not just in the character of Captain Jack Sparrow where it's probably the most evident, but one thing I would say about these films is that I think that time has been really kind to them in the sense that well, the first three anyway, in the sense that like, you know, when these movies came out, they were just blockbusters, right? These would not been the sorts of films that critics were saying are like amazing movies or anything. But you return to them now, and in comparison to like the sort of blockbusters we're getting these days, there's just so much more like care and attention put into things. Like the first one of the first notes I took, and I'll read it verbatim, is it's refreshing to see movies that at least look like movies. It will have its issues, I'm sure, but at the bare minimum, it's filmed in real places and looks good as a result. The costume and sets and ships and everything look great, and they do. Obviously, like, yeah, Johnny Depp as Captain Jack Sparrow is like one of the most iconic and like noticeable examples of this, just because he's such an expressive actor and he brings so much character to that role, and so much like identity. I think even some of his own identity, probably. But
I'm sure there's some lines that kind of blur together.
But it's just great to watch it and just see like these like things that look real and feel like tangible. And there's just like the director of the first three films, Gore Verbinski, is like I mean I'll get into the problems I have with these movies at some point, but one of his strengths is the fact that you can tell he actually cares about this story and this world, and it really shows in a lot of these things. And I think it's the same with what you were saying about Johnny Depp, is that he clearly has like a unique vision for this character, and so his sort of like innate charisma for that as a person sort of it's a role made for him, really. You can't really imagine anyone else as him.
No, certainly not. No, not at all. I think, like you said, the costumes and the set design, I do really love, because this opening bit where you've got it kind of crisscrossing between Jack Sparrow like arriving in Port Royal, and also the kind of like Elizabeth and Commodore Norrington, and that kind of scene where he's getting like his promotion, right? It's full of character and life, and it is that thing of, I know it's a very cliche thing I'm about to say, but it does really feel like, even this is a fantastical world with fantastical elements, it does still feel based in the 1800s, around that time of pirates and, the Spanish and the British, colonizing and like
18th century, not the 1800s.
Oh, sorry, you are right. I didn't get those two mixed up.
Well, it's very easy to, but no, sorry, continue.
But it's just everything they have, from, like I said, the set design, or just the amount of like people, just like amount of bodies they try and get into all these scenes, is brilliant right at the start.
And
Where you
like
just
real people, like extras, not like CG. Like
oh yeah, very true. Like they just have people like just running around and just doing stuff, or being like a guard or a soldier, or just like some random townsperson. Like it's brilliant.
right.
Just the amount of just people doing stuff. It makes it feel like an actual world rather than a movie. I think like you said, too many blockbusters these days. It's they don't try and suspend your disbelief. They don't try and have you believe in this world and believe it's a real world. It almost feels like we are selling you a movie, so we're going to make it a movie. It's just going to feel like a movie rather than a world with actual people and things happening.
Absolutely. We're up to sort of like the sort of, and I feel like these movies are very long and there's lots going on plot wise, so we can't really go into like a sort of full summary of everything, but we can sort of like guide our discussions through
Yeah,
a sort of like a rough sort of retelling. So I guess like the main thing that happens is Captain Jack Sparrow arrives. Or yeah, his ship is like sinking, and he just sort of like technically I guess parks at Port Royal. He's just like. It's such a great introduction, and I love his little like gesture to the hanging corpses as well. That's very funny, and sort of foreshadows the eventual sort of like undead stuff. But we'll get to that. Yeah, and then he's like, obviously he needs a new boat. He's on the lookout for a new boat, but he's also, obviously a pirate in English like colony, so they're gonna be like trying to fucking hang him or whatever. Yeah, obviously he gets himself into some antics. He like starts fighting with Will Turner.
Yeah, like most of this is now you're focused on Jack Sparrow. There's the bit where Elizabeth like she can't breathe because of like the whole corset thing that was foreshadowed earlier, and she like falls into the water, and then Jack Sparrow like jumps in and saves her as he gets her out of the water. They're like Norrington and all his like men come over to like basically shoot him, or I think they're trying to arrest him. They decide to instead arrest him after some like after like Elizabeth asks him to, before Jack Sparrow, which becomes very much part of his character, is his way to kind of a mix of kind of talking and charming his way out, and also just kind of being able to just pull something out of nothing in a sense. Is a lot of his charm is he's got that roguish debonair to him that he just kind of dances past death regularly.
There's also like the sense that like with Jack Sparrow, you never know whether he's planning, he has a plan or anything. Like he always, or if he's just like naturally lucky, and so he like tries to get out of there, he tries to escape. He makes some like sort of snarky quip about like you'll remember this is the day you were almost caught, Captain Jack Sparrow. And then he like gets caught immediately. And then what are they like gonna hang him or something? It's been a little while since I watched this one, but
so he has like a duel with Will. So now like our three main characters are all introduced to each other.
Yeah.
In which they have like this fight for a while, and then I think Will's like he's like his boss, just like who at the start is like he's like drunk and sleeping, just comes over and just smacks Jack Sparrow, which I do like. There's some very funny slapstick that has a lot of weight to it, as good slapstick should have a good bit of weight to it.
Yeah.
Where he gets smashed over the head with a bottle and just like
that
honks out basically, and then they put him in prison.
Yeah, that whole first fight sequence between Will and Jack, where Will's like, he thinks that pirates killed his parents or whatever, killed his father, and so he hates pirates. He wants to kill Captain Jack Sparrow, who just sort of happens to wander into his place of work. And but that's a great fight. It's a perfect example of like just sort of like these cool practical stunts. There's all this like creative stuff going on. They get that little, what is it, like a goat involved? Is it a donkey?
Little donkey like the donkey
involved.
He's like the donkey's moving around, which makes these like, I don't know what they are. They're like some sort of thing to do with like the blacksmith, where they kind of spin around and they're kind of jumping around them. There's a bunch of swords, and there's like this kind of teetering cart that they jump on, and it's like I said, it's a lot of the action scenes, especially in this first one, I think, had just a lot of fun in terms of the environments there, which I think a good action scene should always, play around with the environment. It shouldn't just be like two people just waving a sword at each other or shooting each other. They should be able to interact with their environment and kind of play around it and get a sense of their character from it. Jack Sparrow, a lot of the way he fights, he's kind of he's toying with Will, and he kind of cheats a lot, and whereas Will's meant to be very kind of honourable in the way he's fighting, and
Right, exactly.
they do really well with a lot of the action scenes, especially like the kind of one-on-one fights in these movies is very, very fun and interesting. But well, now we're over to the main introduction of the Black Pearl itself, because of when Elizabeth fell in the water, she had like that Aztec medallion or whatever it is. It sends the shockwave out, and they then arrive at the night the Black Pearl and all its crew basically just like sack Port Royal.
Headed by, sorry, I need to get this in once. Headed by University of Queensland alum Jeffrey Rush,
who plays the Captain Barbosa, who is just a phenomenal character.
Yeah, no,
I think he's one of
great.
only a couple characters that are in all of the movies, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's basically him and Johnny Depp, the only two that are in every single movie.
Yep.
I think. He's very fun, and like I think a really good part of a lot of this series is they're very melodramatic characters in the best way possible. A lot of the main characters, especially Barbosa and Jack Sparrow, and a few of the other characters we'll get into when we talk about the next two. They just have, you can just tell I think a lot of this movie people just had fun making it, which just adds to how enjoyable these movies are.
They're just such charming and like distinct performances. Like he just they just all arrive, and it's not even just Barbosa; it's the entire crew, including the guy from The Office, who's one of his. His name's Mackenzie Cook. He's he's the sort of like tall, sort of like lanky guy, skinny, and he's usually dead alongside.
Is he the one with the fake eye?
Yes. He's the fake eye guy.
I didn't realize he was in The Office. Oh, there you go.
He's in the original Office, not the American one, but yes.
Yeah. Well, he's English. I didn't know that. There you go. But no, he's him, and he's the other. I don't know who he's like. They kind of have this kind of comedy duo. He's the tall, lanky one with the missing eye, and then there's the kind of smaller bloke. They have like a good comedy duo. Where they're kind of just meant to be these kind of bumbling moronic pirates that are part of Barbosa's crew. They show up a lot, and they're weirdly they're not weirdly, they're very, very integral to like loads of the plot of all three films.
Yes.
Because they rock up to the governor's house, and they take Elizabeth Swann as a hostage because she's got the gold medallion, and then she's like brought onto the ship on the Black Pearl, and she lies to them and tells them that she's Elizabeth Turner, which is really important.
Because now, yes.
Well, sure, I might as well. Shall we talk about
you may as well spoil it.
main...
I mean, it's yes.
Well, yeah, very true. So the whole thing is the Aztec gold that Barbosa and his crew took. He's cursed them so that they're like undead skeletons and it like reveals it when it's in the moonlight.
Which, like, can I just say, okay, so I hadn't seen these movies before, and I guess like if I'd thought about it, like I knew about like Davy Jones, I knew about like stuff like that, but going into it, I didn't have it in my mind that there was like any like supernatural or sort of like fantasy, or what's the word for something like zombies. I didn't have that in my mind. I thought it was all just sort of like cannons and sword fights and stuff like that. So that was like kind of a massive surprise, because when it happened I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But it was cool. I think it adds a lot to the series. It broadens the scope, and it adds a sort of mystique and fantastical element to it that plays really well with the world.
It's very I would like. Well, no, actually, I'll continue with this point before I ask a question. So, after they all took it, they realized, yeah, like I said, turned them into these undead skeleton pirates. And they have to return each bit of the gold, and then also pay back with their with a blood offering from each of the members. And Will Turner, his father was a part of their crew before he was thrown overboard, and disappeared into the ocean. Or Bill Turner, as they call him, Bootstrap Bill. Um, so the whole crew believes that Elizabeth is obviously Bill Turner's. Well, they assume she is his daughter. So they planning on taking her to the Isla de Muerta, or the island of. I think it just translates to the island of death, if I know my Spanish correctly. So they're gonna return the gold, and then also just take a bit of her blood to free them from their curse. And about the said skeleton pirates, what are your thoughts on the bits of CGI in this film?
Okay, I did write down that it's not aged amazingly, but it's not aged terribly. Firstly, it's sparingly used.
That's true.
It's sparingly used. Secondly, it's not that. I don't think it's that bad. I think the prequels were coming out around this time a few years earlier. They look like substantially worse. I think it looks all right. It doesn't detract from the experience for me too much. I feel like it's just sort of like, oh yeah, it's what I expect from a over 20-year-old film. It's yeah. I mean, they've definitely not aged great, but in my opinion, they look fine for what it is. What about you?
It really depends on the scene. I think for a lot of these, it's scene to scene, because I think the good thing is a lot of these shots are taken in the nighttime, or or it's dimly lit when they kind of do it, which really helps, because I think especially with old and bad CGI, as soon as you put some light to it, it can look like a green screen effect. But if it's in the dark, it kind of your eyes don't really catch it as much. So I think it's helped itself there. I think the only scene I can really think of that specifically I think looked bad was there was some of the scenes where right at the end, the bit where all the skeleton pirates they walk underwater to surprise the British,
Yeah.
where they jump on their boat. There's a couple of bits there where it did look a little bit green screeny. But otherwise, I think especially in this first one, I don't think the CGI is too bad, and I think it doesn't. Although the CGI, the amount of it increases, movie by movie, it also is not too bad neither than in the next two, other than one bit which we'll get to when we talk about the second one.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I do think, yeah, like I said, it is old CGI, but they've been smart enough to do it in a way that I think they try and hide a lot of the issues, which I can always commend a film when it realizes, hey, this doesn't look great, but we can't really do too much about it, so we'll just, try our best to kind of hide it slightly, or just make it look a bit better.
Yes. But basically, just sort of give sort of a brief, I guess, recap of where we're at now that Elizabeth has been taken. Which, by the way, I just want to bring up that I've seen Keira Knightley now in two series. I've seen her in this, and I've seen her in 2005 adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, and she plays a character called Elizabeth in both. So
there you go.
Anywho, yes. So now that she's been captured, sort of will turn and in the ensuing sort of attack on Port Royal that Barbossa and his crew launch in order to get Elizabeth and the piece of gold, they inadvertently allow Jack to escape, and Jack and Will Turner sort of they don't team up in a sense, and I'll talk about that as we go on, but they realize that they have sort of a shared need to get out onto the open sea. They need a boat, and they also need a crew. So they sort of they commandeer a navy vessel, and then off they go to what's the place called? Tortuga?
Yeah,
Is that
Tortuga, which is like this like pirate, like this. It's like yeah, like a port, like which is entirely just pirates. Where they try and yeah secure a crew after they have this like quite fun bit where they trick the navy to they go on one ship and then they swap to the other one because the other one's like the faster one. Was it like the HMS Interceptor? That's it. There's the Interceptor, which is the
which is an
fast one,
awesome name.
and then the other one's called like the Dauntless, I think,
Yeah.
which is like the slower one, but it's got more guns on it. But yeah, arriving in Tortuga, they try and put themselves together a crew where Jack Sparrow also runs into, I guess, an old what is well, I guess they don't really say exactly how they know each other, but they're insinuated to be quite good friends from for a long time, which is the I think it's not Joshua, it's Joshua Me Gibbs, who's like then becomes like the ship's kind of like quartermaster, I believe is the official
Yes.
nautical term. And he's quite a very fun character. He kind of always plays along to a lot of Jack
He's always
Sparrow's.
around. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's kind of almost like a sort of straight man to Jack Sparrow's funny man in the sense that he kind of plays a lot where Jack Sparrow is kind of a bit of a crazy man and a bit weird, but Gibbs knows that he's also sort of a genius, so kind of goes along with a lot of his madness.
Yeah. He's more sort of like the traditional sort of like old seaman rather than a more sort of like adventurous action hero pirate, and so they have a good dynamic there.
Put together a crew in Tortuga of a bunch of people who I don't think none of them return other than one guy, which is the deaf guy with the parrot. I don't think that
Yes.
any of the other ones
That's
in
right.
this
I
movie
forgot
return.
about that. I
Yes,
forgot that.
this guy's
Yeah.
in like nearly all. No, I think he's at least in the three of them. I don't know if he's in the other two. I can't remember. But he's like this. Yeah, he's a deaf guy who only the parrot speaks for him, and he like it speaks in just kind of like random phrases. Like it's very unique, and I do like how unique they kind of make a lot of the side characters. Or just sorry, the characters in general. They all do try and give them a unique thing, even if they don't have a lot of lines or a lot to do in the movie. They usually a lot of it's just to do with like they look a bit weird or they kind of just say a silly phrase at some points throughout the movie. Again, like yeah, a lot of Barbossa's crew is also like that. It's very obviously a lot of care and attention, like we said, has been done to the visuals to make every scene really pop with just unique people doing unique things, which is always great for a movie. Like I said, yeah, like this a high budget movie where they can actually put the money in to get all these people and all these great costumes and designs. Then after that, they're basically going after the Black Pearl.
Yeah, well, they sort
Yeah.
of like they're sort of like paths converge when Barbossa and his crew arrive with Elizabeth at the what is it, the Isla de Muerta,
Yeah, Isla de Muerta, yeah.
which is like this place where they stole this gold from, this Aztec gold from, and now they're returning it, and they've like we've got our final person here and the blood sacrifice. And as they arrive and they're about to conduct their operation and think they're going to be set free, they're sort of like snuck up on by Will Turner and by Captain Jack. And I refer to him as Captain Jack because you know how he is about that.
Yeah, very true.
And so they sort of like they put the gold in and then they cut Elizabeth's hand, and when her blood falls in and nothing happens, they're like, oh, something's not right here, because obviously she's not Elizabeth Turner, she's Elizabeth Swan. And yeah, and also like while we're talking about all of this like sort of like lore and stuff, one thing that I want to like talk about is like I think that this series like it has a lot of exposition in it. Lots of like tales being told, lots of like legends and tales and stuff like that that's just sort of relayed. But I think that it's very clever or it's very lucky in how it does it, because with the whole sort of like pirate aesthetic, I think that works really well. Like it doesn't really ever feel out of place, because the whole pirate thing of just telling each other tales and talking, it would feel a lot more out of place in another sort of movie. But I think that that sort of setting, that sort of environment, lends itself really well to that exposition just sort of feeling a lot more natural when it's brought up. And so they're allowed to sort of establish all this quite complicated and quite detailed background information, because there's a lot you need to keep track of in order to understand what's going on by this. I mean, not in the sense it's not like reading a Tolstoy novel or anything, but it's there's a lot to remember, and I think that they do that very well, and in a way that really works with the world of the story.
Despite they obviously try and give a lot of background to a lot of these characters, they have done well to kind of intertwine a lot of the bits where they have to do a lot of exposition with. I think what they do get quite right in these first 3 movies is they're able to leave a lot hanging and a lot to kind of the audience to figure out, along with the bits that need to be like just said aloud. There's equal parts show and tell, I think, in these movies, which really helps it to not get too complicated or more get too confusing for the audience, because it really becomes a lot in the next 2 movies. But even now, there's a lot of people swapping, which is very, I guess, pirate-like. So it really works where a lot of people swap, between being captured by one person or being aligned to another, and there's a lot of trickery and people deceiving each other or pretending to be friends with each other or whatnot. Whereas the whole thing where Will is able to save Elizabeth and they go back to the ship and Jack is, I think briefly, I believe he's captured by Barbossa's crew for a little bit.
Well, basically Will finds out that he's the son of Bill Turner, and so he realizes that that's the blood that they need, and so he threatens to kill himself in exchange for Elizabeth and Jack's lives, and Barbossa just dumps them on the same island he dumped Jack on beforehand, and then the 2 of them just spend like a night there with lots of rum. Which I have to say, and this is just my opinion, being stranded on a quiet Caribbean island with Keira Knightley and extreme quantities of rum, not
bad.
Not the worst punishment I've ever heard of.
No, not exactly. No.
I can think of worse. One wonders how you would get on the bad side of Captain Barbossa. Anyway.
Yes.
But yes, we're in the sort of final third of the movie, I guess.
On a bit where there's a bit where Elizabeth Swann is asking Jack, and she goes, "How did you actually escape last time?" And he went, "I didn't. It used to be it's like some sort of I guess, well, not bootlegging, I guess it's not the right way, but it's like a rum stash where these kind of traders would come, and he was just like, "Oh, last time I just got on a boat with them, and that's how I got out of it."
Which I do want to point out that in this scene when they're having a sort of party in the middle of the night, they're having a bonfire party with all of this rum. I can understand it coming from Jack, but less so from Elizabeth. The man that she loves and has loved her entire life has been condemned to death, and she's just like, "Oh, okay, well, cool. I guess I'm never getting off this island." And she just sort of has a real ball with. I mean, I understand the rum loosens you up a little bit, but how strong must that rum be?
Well, she then she dumps it all onto this bonfire to make this giant signal fire in the morning, which also starts is the inspiration for the popular internet song "Where's the Rum Gone?" Back in the day where people would, to create songs on YouTube, they just splice together clips from a movie or a TV show, and then just kind of synth their way through.
Dear.
Which I think is the height of music, personally. But yeah, this giant bonfire comes off, and then the Royal Navy itself arrives with Commodore Norrington, And there's like initial bit where he just wants, he's like, well, I've got Jack Sparrow in cuffs, I've got Elizabeth, I'm just gonna go home. But
Yeah.
then Elizabeth says she'll agree to marry him, and if
If they
and
save
only
Will.
if he saves Will.
Which, like,
So
dude,
he just was
do you
like,
not do you not see the
well,
problem in this reasoning?
well, yeah. Look, obviously, he's very blindsided for his love of Elizabeth, but he was
I
just like,
like.
all right,
Can we talk about Norrington? Because this is probably, I mean, he's
hmm,
in all three, but this is probably his most prominent role in terms of screen
yes,
time. I kind of like Norrington. Well, like, actually, okay, I'll sort of like split this off into a bigger
hmm
discussion. One of the bigger problems I have with the three movies is that I love Captain Jack Sparrow, I
hmm
love Barbossa, I like Norrington, I like some of the
hmm
side characters. I don't really care that much about Will Turner or Elizabeth Swann.
yes, they are
Um,
very plasticky.
they're a little bit boring, to be honest. Partly because I think Keira Knightley is a little bit boring, and maybe Orlando Bloom too. Um, they're just not as interesting as some of the other characters around them.
They just don't
Um,
really. The problem is they don't have a lot of pizzazz of. See, here's the
right.
thing. Jack Sparrow's is kind of he's suave. He's a bit of a fake, but he's also a bit, that kind of roguish charm. And he does also have like a, despite obviously being revealed that a lot of the way he escapes and wins is just kind of dumb luck or just a bit of him faking it till he makes it. He is also like shown a lot of the time to be quite smart in terms of he's just very able to think on the fly and kind of get himself out of these situations. And then you've got Barbosa, who's a very, he he's very melodramatic. All the acting is very big and over the top. Like especially the facial expressions are very big
Yep.
and over the top, and he very overemphasizes a lot of his lines. And then you've kind of got Elizabeth and Will, and in comparison, they look slightly like they're underacting. Like their acting is in any other movie it would be pretty fine. Like
They're fine.
they would be
It's
okay.
not
But in
bad. They're
this
just
movie,
yeah.
they look really nothing in comparison to all these other big
Right.
personalities of the
They're
movie.
very they're very plain. And even like Norrington, who isn't like the most like expressive character, he's got a very sort of like dry wit. He's very
Mm.
English. He's very stiff upper lip, sort of like,
Yes, yes.
um, sardonic. He's very. I mean, I just like him because he's a bit like me, to be honest. But, um, but no, I like Norrington. I think he's a cool addition to the cast, and
he's he has some very good.
he's poorly done over by the trilogy. I think he
Yeah,
doesn't he doesn't have the
yeah.
happiest
Don't. Yeah, that's
of
true.
arcs, and I
But
feel like
he,
we need some justice for Norrington. But
yeah, very true. But he's yeah, like I said, he's very good. There's that bit where they're where like Captain Jack Sparrow, he's like, oh, I'll go into the cave and I'll lead them out, and then you guys can just kill him.
right,
And then they're like, okay, so like all him and all like these British troops, they get into the boats and they kind of like rock up, and there's this bit with the two, which they're almost like a mirror to like the two pirates in
yes,
Barbossa's crew. These two like are also kind of comic relief, kind of bumbling idiot, British soldiers. They're like sitting behind him and they're like, so why aren't we following his plan? And he's like, because it was a plan made by Captain Jack Sparrow. I'm not gonna,
right,
he's very like, he's
right.
it's that thing of like, I am surrounded by very dumb people.
There's some funny little side characters as well, like
Oh,
those guys
they
that
do that
pop up.
very well. And I think it even gets better in the next two films that they add more weird and
Yeah.
colourful characters.
Yes. But I guess that we're up to like sort of the final section of the
Yeah, we
film
were up
where
to the
in
conclusion where the big action scene right at the end.
summary, sort of like there's all these converging things happening, but basically Jack and their crew get into a fight with the crew, with Barbossa's crew in the Black Pearl, which for me, a big problem that I had with this is that Barbossa's crew are undead for 99% of this fight, and that's sort of like they can't die; they're immortal, right? Because of this
Mm,
curse,
yeah,
which sort of robs the scene of any tension when one side is immortal.
yeah, I get
And
what you mean.
yeah, it's
There's
like
like this, yeah,
it's a cool fight. It takes place in sort of this like treasure room. It's a bit like the Smaug's treasure room in The
mm,
Hobbit, smaller.
very true.
Um, but it's sort of like it's all this fun, cool action going on, but it sort of culminates when Will Turner cuts his hand and then drops the gold in right as Jack shoots Barbossa with the bullet he's been saving for Barbossa. And Barbossa's like, "Oh, what'd you do that for? Why'd you waste a bullet after all these years?" And then he looks over and, oh, the gold's in the chest. And he's like, "Oh."
And then, it's quite good how he opens up his shirt and it's like just almost like a tone of blood like over his entire chest. It's very like I said, quite dramatic where it's just covered in blood. And I like that. I like in a lot of that they don't shy away from people dying or
Yeah.
people being shot or cut or whatever. But you are right in the sense that to touch on that tension thing, there's that bit where Jack takes a bit of the gold and then he also becomes immortal. So for a brief moment of this fight, it's just two immortal people fighting each other.
Right.
What?
It's not. It's kind of like those.
I get what they're going for. That Jack's kind of quite cunning and conniving in the way he's set up, so Barbossa can't kill him while he's trying to get everything sorted out with Will. But it is, yeah, like I said, it's just two immortal people. It's a good fight scene. There's a lot of them kind of moving around the cave, and
One of my favorite things about it is how, as they duck in and out of pockets of moonlight, they sort of go from living to undead, living to undead. That's cool.
It's very good. But neither of them can die, so
neither of them can die, so it's kind of boring. And then there's just all these people being slaughtered by the all the
or it's that
Navy people, which it's. I mean, they're nameless characters.
I mean, nobody cares about that bit. But
still oh, this isn't particularly pleasant. Just watching slaughter happening.
Yeah. Well, one of the bits about that is just this is my one really big kind of I guess a real movie critic-esque thing where I'm like, all these undead characters are fighting for how long, and yet there is still at the end of it there's still loads of those Navy soldiers. So were the pirates just really shit, or what happened there? Surely if you're undead, surely you'd just be absolutely murdering all these.
But close quarters as well, they're on the ship. It would have been a complete wipeout.
And then you look at the end and everyone's fine, and Norrington and the governor, both of them are fine. It's very.
One other question I had also thing that confused me is that obviously when Jack shoots Barbossa, Barbossa sort of bleeds out and dies because immediately afterwards Will throws the gold into the chest. What's the cutoff point working backwards of where injuries count and don't count? Are all injuries they ever sustained, do they count? Because in that case, shouldn't they all just immediately die of massive bullet wounds that they would have sustained?
Drop dead, yeah. Also, they've not eaten for how many years, so they should all just
right
die of malnutrition. Obviously, if you take a lens to this.
Yeah,
this
you don't
entire
need to
series
too much, but
no, but there are bits where you look at it and you kind of you do kind of go,
It doesn't have to make sense in the real world, but it has to make sense within its own internal logic, and some of it is still just a little bit confusing, but not too badly. So I think for the most part,
not ridiculously.
There's no crazy plot holes, and
there is one plot hole that
in this movie or in a later one.
Well, I think it carries over. Here's my only thought. And it's to do with the monkey.
Yeah, the fucking monkey.
The monkey's very cute, and I do like the monkey. The monkey's fun, don't get me wrong. But it is shown through all three movies that the monkey is still undead. So I guess the logic is what happened there? Did the monkey? Barbossa does love the monkey, so maybe he just couldn't he couldn't spill any of the monkey's blood. So therefore, the monkey.
Maybe it's just a special monkey.
I don't know.
Maybe it's a old curse. It's just an undead monkey.
Maybe it is. Maybe very good coincidence, that one. That is the only major plot hole I found in one of the major ones is the monkey stays undead through the entire series.
But
with
I guess.
that wrapped up, well, Will and Jack and Elizabeth all make it back to Port Royal. And I guess it's meant to be like a couple of days later or whatever. Where Jack Sparrow is going to be hung for his crimes. Um, Before Will saves him, they kind of have like a little quick action scene, which I will say this action scene. I don't know about you. I like it, but also it is a little bit stupid how they just kind of grab a rope and then just kind of beat past like, you know,
I mean,
five, six like
rope
just kind of
rope is
soldiers.
kind of like a superpower in these films in many
Yeah,
ways.
it does have a lot of
It's a
moments where just
magic item.
rope is inexplicably able to, do anything. It's like a catch-all.
And it's also like kind of a classic case of like, I mean, obviously, like it makes sense in terms of like how the plot needs to wrap up everything. Like it makes sense why this scene exists, but it is an
Mm-mm.
example of how these films are quite long. They're quite, I mean, this isn't the worst case of it, but they're relatively bloated, and it's like, man, like how many action scenes are there in this movie? Do we really need this last one as well?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and then like it ends on like this. I mean, like it's a line that's like so corny that I literally predicted it, where it's like, um someone, the Commodore, or someone says something about Will. He says he's just a blacksmith, and then Elizabeth looks at him and goes, "No, he's a pirate." And then they
Yeah,
like kiss or whatever,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because Norrington just like basically gives her up to him.
He's just like, oh fuck, I can't
uh,
be done.
I
I'm
can't
leaving
be
you.
dealing with this, to be honest.
Well, well, the overall like story is that he's like he kind of accepts it, and then he kind of he lets Jack go, and he kind of jumps off.
Yeah,
He jumps off the edge and is picked up by the Black Pearl, and then he goes to his like second in command, and he's just like, we can give them a day's head start before we go after them. Um,
that's
that's it
basically
done.
the movie. I guess we'll go into like general sort of thoughts, and then we'll do ratings, I suppose. Shall you go first, or
Um, I'll go first for this first one. I would say for me, I would give it 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10, yeah. Yourself?
oh, okay. I guess we're just yeah. I mean, I'll talk a little bit about my like overall thoughts first. Um,
Oh,
yeah, I think did you want to talk about your overall thoughts, or did you just want to give a rating?
no, I can give a rating and then kind of
Sure.
bounce back with you.
Yeah, no, I thought this was really good. I really liked certain performances, namely Johnny Depp, um, University of Queensland alum Jeffrey Rush. Um, I like the guy who plays Norrington. I don't know what his fucking name is, but you know, who cares? Um, I liked
He's English,
the.
I assume.
Yes, I assume, presumably, if he's not, that's a great accent. Well, he's like Swiss or something. Anyway, where was I going with this? Yeah, no, I really like the tangibility of the action and the sets, and just like how cool everything looks. Like it's just there's just sort of like a realness, a griminess, and a I don't know. It's just all of these sets and all of these costumes and all of these ships and everything just looks great. There's not, CGI is used, but it's used sparingly in situations which make sense, in which situations where it's needed, and it doesn't really detract from the world, and so the world feels real and feels you can just get into it more. The action is more fun. The characters are more interesting and believable because it's not just over the top CGI schlock. That's what I really love
Mm-mm.
about it. Um, but on the other side, it's just a blockbuster. There's nothing like too crazy here. It's very long. All of these movies are very long. It's as far as negatives, that's really about it. I mean, there's not really any strong negatives. It's more just like it's just a really good fun action adventure film, um, fun pirate movie. Yeah, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. That's my rating.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree totally basically with everything. Like, if I was to find faults in this movie, I wouldn't say I'm nitpicking, but like, you have to find them rather than,
Yeah, right.
they're not glaring in your face. You can kind of gloss past a lot of the
There's nothing
problems.
fundamentally wrong with it.
No,
It's
no,
more
no.
just like it's a big sort of silly over the top action movie, blockbuster
Exactly.
movie, and so it's gonna have some flaws. It's gonna be kind of schlocky, kind of silly, it's not going to have much depth. Not that a movie needs depth to be great or anything, but it's not going to have a lot of depth. Will and Elizabeth aren't the most interesting characters, and they're some of the most major characters in the movie and in the series. But
yeah, exactly. I think for that reason, yeah, like I said, my 8 out of 10, maybe being a little bit more.
You don't need to justify your ratings. I mean, these are nostalgic movies for you as well, anyway.
Well,
so.
That's true. That's probably part of it. Also, I don't like. I really like a movie that I can get a sense that people were enjoying making the movie. You know what I mean? So I like to give credit to movies when you can tell everything's just fun.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think an 8 out of 10 is a very valid rating, and you don't need to justify it at all. Well, shall we take these in turns in terms of introductions? Do you want me to introduce the second one?
You can go with next one if you like.
Okay, so in 2006, so 3 years later, following the success, I didn't do research on this, but I suppose following.
I think it made like probably a bit more than double its budget, if I remember. I think
it made a crazy money.
I think it also didn't have a crazy big budget.
It had a budget of 140 million. And it made 640 million. So that's crazy.
That's crazy numbers. Yeah,
knocked out of the ballpark. And so you can see why they wanted to make a second one. And I assume they sort of ordered 2 and 3 in a sort of like joint.
Yes.
Because
if I'm not mistaken,
they go together quite well. And although there was a 3-year gap between the first one and the second one, there's only a 1-year gap between the second and the third. So I'm assuming that there's
I think from seeing a lot of the production stuff and kind of the interviews and whatever, I think filming of 2 and 3 happened fairly simultaneously, if I'm not mistaken, which sometimes does hurt films when they do that, but I don't think it hurt too much with these lot.
It doesn't really seem like it. And yeah, in 2006 we got Wikipedia tells me it's a 2006 American fantasy swashbuckler film, which, sure. Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest, also directed by Gore Verbinski, who's only American. I thought he was like Eastern European or something. I thought he was like a Polish director. He's probably Polish in origin, but he's born in America.
Exactly.
And yeah, I guess like the major overarching plot of this one concerns the quest to find Davy Jones's chest, which contains his heart, which is locked away in a box.
Titular dead man's chest.
Titular dead man's chest, and sort of also the Kraken. It plays a big role in this one.
Oh yes.
And so does the East India Trading Company. So there's lots of stuff going on here.
Yeah, this is where it starts to get a bit more complicated to these films.
Yes, and the run times go up as well.
Oh god, yeah.
This movie sort of starts out with Elizabeth and Will's wedding being interrupted by the arrival of what's his name?
Yes.
Lord Cutler Beckett of the East India Trading Company, which is like so great. I mean, like that could be like a real dude. And he has arrest warrants for supposedly aiding Captain Jack, and also Captain Jack is trying to find the heart of Davy Jones, who is, well, what even is Davy Jones? He's sort of like he's sort of like an all-powerful sort of like demon, really. He's like I think
the official, lore of it is, he's meant to be the ferryman of like dead souls, is what he's meant to be.
Yes.
And he's also like the captain of the Flying Dutchman, which is like a ship of also. I think what it's meant to be is they're just kind of like an immortal crew. But the kind of line is that Davy Jones has become like evil.
He's gone rogue, yeah.
He's gone rogue, and that's like made his entire crew now into fish people as like punishment. And now they just kind of, at the start it's just they just kind of roam the seas and just kind of kill people.
They just fuck shit up. Yeah,
they just fuck shit up
just for the fun of it, to be honest.
And then if there's any survivors left of the ships they attack, they kind of come over to them and they kind of recruit them to their crew. I think the whole thing is that they find people who are like between the living and the dead. They're like all like people on the cusp of dying. They come over and they're like, there's a whole bit where this ship's attacked, where Davy Jones comes over and he's like, "Do you fear death?"
Yes.
And and they're like, "Then join my crew,"
And
they're reborn as
unfortunately,
fish people.
yes, and unfortunately for Captain Jack, he owes his soul to Davy Jones.
100 years of servitude on
100
the
years
Flying
of
Dutchman.
servitude. Which, not good. Not as bad as it could be. It's not an eternity.
Not particularly.
But it's not great.
It's not great.
And yeah, I guess that's the sort of like the main summary of the film is that basically in order to sort of spare themselves from prison, Will and Elizabeth go off in search of Captain Jack, and in the meantime, Jack is trying to figure out a way to get out of this servitude he owes to Davy Jones, basically by stabbing his heart.
Yeah, and this is kind of where the start of the plot getting a little bit bonkers in terms of trying to keep track of everything, because if I have it correctly, Will makes a deal with Beckett to say, "Set me free, and I'll go get this compass that Jack has that takes you to wherever your heart most desires." Which, whilst this is happening, Jack is like having trouble with it, where it's like going off in multiple directions, whilst he's trying to find the key that unlocks the chest.
Yes.
And while this is all happening, Will catches up to Jack, and then Jack sells him off to Davy Jones.
Yeah. It's
and makes a deal with Jones to say, "Okay, I'm going to collect 99 more people."
Right.
He says his soul is worth 100.
There's all these deals happening and all of these like conflicts of interest, and like it gets a bit confusing, but at the same time, actually, like it's something that I kind of like about these films is the sense that there's not like a definitive like group of allegiance. There's no like every character sort of has their own like motivations, and they're all kind of selfish in their own unique ways. Obviously, Jack is like outwardly selfish and proudly
Jack
selfish.
is yeah.
He is a pirate.
The vast majority of both of these films, he is.
But there's no
as
like
selfish as possible.
There's no like traditional heroes. Everyone's sort of like manipulating one another, and there's all of these conflicts of interest, and people like switch and change allegiances and I like that. I like that like every character is sort of like has their own motivations, their own quite distinct motivations. It's sort of like more in this film than in any other, because they all wind up going for this heart for different reasons. They all want something from Davy Jones that they think they can negotiate if they get this heart.
Yeah, he's really like jam-packed with just everyone's got a reason to kind of root for them, or like a reason that they're actually in this movie, rather than just kind of
there's not just like, oh, here's the team, they're getting back together, you know.
Yeah, exactly. It actually is a sequel for a good reason, rather than just kind of
by the end of the three films, Jack and Will don't really like each other still. Like they kind of hate each other. They'd still kill each other.
Yeah. There's a lot of tension, and it is just not like a list of every character that was in the first movie just doing things. It's a proper standalone in a sense.
There's this whole thing set up where it's like Elizabeth like keeps trying to tell Jack, or like is convinced that Jack has like a deep down is like good and it's noble, and that there's going to be like a chance he'll get to like prove how noble and heroic he really is, and then that just never happens. It just doesn't happen at all. And like I like that. It doesn't feel like it's an unresolved arc. It feels like that is the resolution, is that she's just wrong about him. Not that like, Jack is like a terrible person. He's not like a villain or anything, but he's not a hero. He's just sort of out in it for his own. You root for him because you find him funny and charming and sort of zany. You don't root for him because you feel like he has like a deeply entrenched moralistic code, you know.
Yeah.
And so I like that. I like that the characters in these films are complicated and they're not just one-dimensional. Even a character like Elizabeth or Will, who I don't find that interesting, they're still capable of like acting for themselves. They have distinct, clear motivations, and they're prepared to double cross and go against one another if they have to. I like that. I like that a lot.
Certainly.
So the first like major action like set piece is that they show up on an island where there's cannibals. There's like a
Yeah.
tribe of cannibals that have like captured Jack, and they think he's their leader, which seems like not too bad at first, but it also means that they're gonna eat him.
Yeah, they're like there's this bit where Will rocks up on the island to try and find Jack, and he's captured and he's like put in these like, which just again adore the set pieces where they're in these balls made out of the
these,
skeleton
ropes,
of the
yeah.
crew.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. Yes,
They're the
yes.
skeleton of the crew, and they're being like hung in this gorge. It's just amazing, and yeah, as is explained by Gibbs, who tells him like that these natives think that Jack is their like god and chief, but as part of that, they're gonna like free his soul from his body by like cooking and eating him.
By cooking and eating him. It's great. It's great. It is a little. It's a little racist.
It's a little bit. I mean, it is 2006 to be fair.
Yeah,
but it is a little bit racist.
But it's a tiny bit racist.
I do like how they went like all crazy with the like the tribe, but they just gave him like insane, like they've got so much like paint on them, and they've got like all these like they give Jack like a necklace of toes, and they've all got like these bones. And
do you remember that
he does eat the he takes a nibble out of the toe.
I don't know why he does that.
I guess the idea is he's a bit of a madman, or I don't know, insane.
In that case. Also, I just it's just a fun. It's a very long action scene. All the action scenes in this series seem to be ridiculously long.
I do feel like at points they do drag a bit, but not too much, because they try and keep him a lot really fun and keep him interesting areas and interesting things going on that do help.
There's a lot of interesting things going on. It's not always just sword fights. Like in this one they've got like these guys the crew trying to escape from the chasm, and then there's also lots of like fruit based action.
Yeah, there's a big bit where Jack he runs away while because like the tribe like figures out the crew's trying to escape, so Jack tells them to run away, and he like gets off he's on this spit roast that he gets off, like he's a fucking hog or something, and he runs away while he's got like a giant bamboo stick that he was tied to, like still on him, and then he runs into like these two like women who like literally start throwing fresh fruit at him, and then he just gets stuck on either end of his like the bamboo pole, and then he launches himself over, and then all the fruit goes down on one side, which makes him fall down this giant chasm, which by all means probably should have killed him. I mean, I do think he falls. There's the only bit that kind of, suspension of disbelief in a sense where
his fall is broken by some bridges and shit.
I guess I guess that is the logic, but that's one of those falls where I look at it and go, I know this is a fantastical film, but he should be dead there.
But I think of all the films in the trilogy, this one probably has my favorite action, not just in this sequence, but in the final sequence as well.
I think it is the most creative, yeah.
It's just like it's the perfect middle ground of like the first one has that similar sort of like realistic sort of, like you said, weightiness. It feels real. It doesn't feel it doesn't feel too CGI or schlocky or too over the top like maybe the third one does in little bits and pieces. It's the second one, so there's like it's evolved a bit more and there's a bit more creativity. Like that the stuff with the chasm. This is just great. The action in this one, it's a lot of fun. And I guess after they get off that island, they Do they go and visit the? Do they go and visit the voodoo lady?
Yes. Which I think she's first introduced as Tia Dalma, but she later has a bigger plot to her. But that really only comes ahead in the
Yes, in the third one.
in the final in the third one. Yeah, she's like a kind of Jamaican kind of voodoo lady.
Again,
Um,
it's a little bit like racist, but not
it's
too
it's very
bad.
cliche, is what
Yeah,
I think,
yeah,
or
yes,
stereotypical. Sorry, that's the word I'm looking for. It's very stereotypical. Um, but like yeah, the crew goes to her to try and like figure out what to do. She hands the jar of dirt. That's what comes first in that
yeah,
scene.
yeah.
She gives the dirt. She also tells Jack that she's got to like the whole thing. Like you got to take the heart out and kill it. I think or stab it in order to kind of end the uh end the curse or like to end his debt to Davy Jones. And she hands the dirt because it's revealed that Davy Jones has to spend 10 years at sea before he's allowed 1 day on land. So
Yeah.
if he has this jar of dirt, like he can't step foot on his ship, or it's like this, yeah, it's like a kind of way of protecting himself. And then there's another bit part of this. It's a very brief moment where the monkey kind of runs off, and the crew like sees like a you just see the legs, which will come. It comes in right at the end. We'll talk about it, but you just see the
Yes,
legs of someone, and the monkey like jumps on it.
yes, that's
Because Jack trades her the monkey for like the information. He,
right. He's
I
like a
do,
monkey that can't be killed. He
and
just
he
shoots it.
shoots the monkey. I do love how much they just kind of like just lots of bits where they just randomly shoot things or people. It's just very funny. It's like kind
Um,
of just like very just complete slapstick comedy, people are
yeah,
shot or whatever.
but yeah, no, there's just lots of like, because God, I don't even know how we would do like a full plot plot by plot sort of like thing with this because there's just so much going on. Like
There's a lot that goes
every
on.
character has their own sort of like arc. Every character has their own like diverging storyline, but basically through a series of things like Will, for example, he ends up on Davy Jones on the Flying Dutchman, which has an awesome design, by the way. I especially love his organ room. I love the organ
Mm,
room. I thought
mm.
that was really cool. But and he ends up meeting his father, and he tries to sort of like he tricks Davy Jones basically by like trying to get him to gamble with him because apparently you can gamble you can challenge anyone to a game of liar's dice on this vessel and they have to accept. And so he goes, well, I'll challenge the captain as if no one's ever done that before.
Mm.
um, but it's a fun scene, and his dad joins in. Bill Turner joins in because he loves his son or whatever. But it's like, no, actually, he wasn't trying to beat him because obviously you can't beat Davy Jones or just you. But he just wanted to know where the key was, and he just figures that out.
He's got
It's
like
like
tucked
it's like
under his
it's
beard of
like
tentacles.
tentacles. I love Bill Nye, by the way, just in general. Just Bill Nye
Oh
appreciate
yeah,
like he's awesome as Davy Jones. He's a great villain.
yes. Bill Nye is an amazing actor in terms of how much kind of personality he brings to this, but I I've got to give real credit to the people who did the actual like the look of Davy Jones, all the CGI, which this movie now becomes really heavy with the CGI a lot more than
Yeah,
because all the fish people are always constantly CGI. Um, but it just like oozing with personality. Like he's got like a wooden leg. He's one of his arms is a tentacle, and one of them is a crab claw, and he's got this beard of tentacles which he uses to play the organ. Like
yeah,
they just try to like they literally were like, okay, um we're gonna make this crew of like fish people, the evil fish people. They were just like, how do we dial up to 11? And all of them are great. Like there's a guy who's like just his entire head is like a hammerhead shark. There's one that's got his head in a shell that can like detach. There's like they've all got barnacles on them, and like um
Yeah, it's great.
Bill Turner, he's got an entire starfish on like the side of his face.
Right.
Like it's just so fun in terms of
Um,
how they dial it up.
and yeah, like the Kraken is also great as well. Like obviously there's some janky CGI a little bit later.
Yeah,
But in the scene where just because like Captain Jack's hat is on this like fishing ship, they just snap it like a twig in half. It's awesome. It's like great. It's
yeah,
such an imposing introduction.
yeah.
Um,
Especially the bit where later where Will escapes the after taking the key, he like escapes the Dutchman and like gets on this just kind of random trading ship. And when it's attacked by the Kraken, I do just love like how much it's just ripped apart the ship. It's just like completely annihilated. They really do draw up how dangerous the Kraken is in this movie.
and then it's kind of like a cool little like method of escape. Like he's just hiding
Yeah,
on the Dutchman, which I think is really cool.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
I guess by this point, that's where they end up finally at the Isla Crucis. Is that where they
Yeah, I think that's right. Which is where
where the
where
heart is buried?
the heart is buried. Which in tangential with all the Dutchman stuff, Elizabeth has a escape from her prison thanks to her father, and then she also goes after Jack after making a deal with Beck. So Beckett's like made a deal with well, by the end of it, he's made a deal with every main character in this
Everyone.
entire
Yeah.
but he has these papers signed that are essentially like just like pardon, which she's gonna get for her and Will, and I think he basically just makes the same deal where he's just like, just go get me Jack Sparrow's compass or whatever, or, he basically just wants to get Jack Sparrow and his compass, and then also the heart. So she goes off before, and she finds finds Jack and joins it up on his crew again. And as part
And
of this, we also
yes, no, you were going to say exactly what I was about to say. Go on.
I think we're both going to mention we are reintroduced to former Commodore Norrington, who is
He's not
become
playing too great.
completely destitute.
Yes.
Yeah,
Comically destitute. He's like a
yeah,
Simpsons character. It's like he's like Barney Gumble.
yeah. Like he's just like completely tattered, and he's got like this like horrible beard. Now he looks like all the other pirates. He's just like completely destroyed.
Doesn't he like keep throwing up and shit as well? Like
Yeah,
he's
there's also that bit where he's throwing up randomly. Don't really know why he's doing that in that scene
yeah,
where like
'cause it's
Jack
funny.
and Elizabeth are talking about the kind of the
I think
heart and the compass and the whatnot, and then he
I think
just
it's
starts kind
basically
of
just
throwing
because
up.
he's funny.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're just just showing how
And I guess on this
how trodden it is.
on that note, although I like it in the case of Norrington, this is kind of like a criticism of the series. It's a criticism, but it's also kind of not a criticism. It sort of depends on the specific situation. But they do feel a need where like whenever they introduce even like a really minor character, they seem to feel a need for them to return going forward, like to like make a cameo in the next film. You know what I mean? Like even the dog that like keeps the keys in
Oh,
the
the
prison.
dog.
It appears in all three. It appears in all three
It does.
movies.
It does.
Um,
I
and
do wonder
it's like
sometimes if they possibly there's a few characters they probably could have dropped, but
yeah, and it's also like it's weird when it like when that's like like those you mentioned the sort of like comic relief dumb Navy guards. It's like, do they not die? Like, do they not die alongside all of the other hundreds that keep getting slaughtered in all of
yeah,
these movies?
it's
But yeah, it's
it is.
you don't want to apply too much logic to it. But you do wonder sometimes if you need all of these characters to keep returning, especially with how
Yeah,
bloated these run times get.
I think. Well, you are right in terms of the blood runtime and just the amount of characters. I think a lot of the issue I had with these characters is especially the dog is the worst. That's the most egregious one. I mean, I'm not pro killing the dog, but also just like, the last we see of the dog is being chased by like all those like
Well, actually, it
all
appears
the
in the
cannibals.
post-credit scene. It's the only
On well,
post-credit scene that I saw of the series, but it's like
yeah. Well, no,
it's
I
like,
meant the last the crew. Sorry, is what I meant.
oh
The
yes,
last
you're
the
right.
crew
Yeah, yeah,
saw of it, it was, but just you are right in the sense that they do just kind of you're like these people realistically should be dead, but they just kind of wave it off like no, 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 it's fine.
but they're the
Like I said,
characters that we know.
the
So
deaf guy with the parrot, he survives through all of them. There's also a bunch of other like, yeah recurring kind of these kind of side parts. Like there's the like the kind of the what's the terminology these days? The little person, like the
yeah,
guy with the kind of
yeah,
he's got the beard that's or I mean a lot of them have the beard where it's like kind of tied in and not like Jack Sparrow has the same thing. He's always there. Um, yeah, let's say the two kind of bumbling idiots from Barbossa's because they survived. They're also in all of this. Although to be fair, those two actually do have a little bit more plot relevance going forward. So like,
yeah.
especially I'm forgetting the actor's name, the guy that you said was in The Office.
Mackenzie Cook. Yeah,
It's him. He does actually he specifically has a lot of plot relevance in.
yes,
But yes, they're all at the.
yeah. And this is probably my favorite final action scene of the three films.
It's
Especially,
very creative.
I just love how all of this different stuff is going on. Everyone is, getting involved in different things. Like there's this three-way sword fight between Jack and Will and the Commodore,
Yeah, because
which
all three of them are like trying to get the half for each of their different reasons.
right,
It's very good in terms of getting you to um not if not necessarily root for like at least sympathize with all three in
right.
terms of
Like
wanting.
Jack wants it so he can bargain for his soul. Will wants it
Mm.
for his father. I forget why Norrington
I
just
think
want it because it's like he wants his job back,
he
basically.
just
And
wants his job back. Yeah,
yeah,
that's it.
um, and they're all fighting for it, and they end up on this like massive like spinning wheel from like this old like granary or something.
It's like yeah, like a mill wheel, a wheel, and
Yeah,
whilst this is all happening, the like I said, the two dudes they grab the chest and then like, they run away whilst Elizabeth like runs after them,
yeah,
and then intersecting all this is the Flying Dutchman's crew has like arrived, and all these like fish people pour onto the island to try and fight them. So it is good how many like especially right towards the end where it all kind of transects like the wheel comes crashing on, you know Elizabeth and the two guys with the chest they come in and then all these fishermen run on and they're all kind of fighting in these kind of shallow waters near where the rowing boat is.
yeah.
It's just lots of fun, lots of things happening.
It ends up with Jack. Well, it's a very complicated, well, not complicated, but it's complicated
Mm-hmm.
in a
For a brief
sense, I guess.
moment.
There's lots of stuff going on where Jack, everyone at certain points has the heart or thinks they
Yeah.
has the heart, and then they all go back to the pearl. A battle ensues to get the heart, and Jack just decides to peace out. He's just like, well, I'm out of here, so he just fucking runs off.
Yeah.
But then he comes back.
He comes back. He comes back and like say he kind of like there's there's this whole bit where the Kraken attacks the ship that they're on, and then like they raise up the kind of all the gunpowder and the rum in the ship to kind of like create this big old bomb to just kind of like blow all the tentacles up.
Yeah,
Um,
they
and
forge it off for a little while. Yeah,
yeah, I mean this is one of those things that does drag on where they're just kind of they're lifting it up, and then Elizabeth is trying to get a gun, and then people are like it
right.
is cool the Kraken just being able to just have a bit of time to just like kill people, except for the people with name characters and and funny looks. I mean they also are, but it
Stranger
is cool. But
Things
it just
syndrome. Yeah,
but it does have a lot of it does kind of drag on the amount of times they're like, are they gonna shoot it? He's Will, and then there's a bit where Will's like he gets his leg stuck in the thing, and he's trying to cut it off while Elizabeth's kind of rolling around the ship. Ultimately, what happens is Jack returns. He picks up the gun. Um, Will frees himself whilst he shoots the giant this net full of barrels and rum, which blows all the Kraken up to bits. And then they're like, okay, let's just get in the little longboat. That's the word. That's the nautical term. The longboats to kind of flee the ship. And Jack's like all in favor of that, and he's running off before Elizabeth grabs him.
Fucking like chains him to the ship.
Chains him
this
to the
is his
ship.
reward for doing one heroic thing is he gets fucking murdered.
Yeah, it is a
him.
bit of a weird thing with whole Elizabeth's character where she's trying to, like, she believes / is trying to convince Jack that, he does have some good in him, and then Jack, presents the good in him where he comes back to save him, but then she proceeds to chain him up and
Yeah, and then
Yes.
like the Kraken arrives and he just sort of like he just does this hero shot where he just leaps into its mouth with his sword. Like it's a little bit over the top.
It's over the top, but also it doesn't look like the. I don't know how they've done it, but the tentacles of the Kraken looked really good. But the mouth of it looked really bad. I don't.
Yeah, it doesn't
That-
look great. Yeah,
That's the only bit that I think I had laughably bad CG, where I looked at it and went, okay, that is just horrific.
but that sort of leads me into another, and it's not like a major problem because it's only a problem with one sort of like bit of the movie, is that like it's a bit of a messy ending in the sense that like they make this massive deal out of Jack being like sacrificing himself, or not sacrificing himself, but being sacrificed rather.
Mm.
It's sort of like this big dramatic piece, and then in like the very next scene, it's sort of like I guess like the epilogue, or not really even an epilogue, it's just the conclusion of the film.
Yeah.
They go to the voodoo lady, and she's just like, well, do you want to get him back? And they're like, oh, okay then, yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's all a
We'll
bit.
do it so that we can have a third movie and get another paycheck. And then speaking of other paychecks, Barbosa shows up. Yukio
Yeah.
Jeffrey Rush. He's just like, yeah, I'm back from the dead, baby.
He comes back, which to be fair, like I mean, it's
it's
corny
good.
and it's a little bit stupid. I mean, very good, but it is also kind of like you do kind of have that like not like I guess child sense of whimsy, or like that kind of thing where when he comes back, it is kind of like it's kind of cool. It is kind of cool. I mean, it's objectively just a bit stupid and just trying to throw him back in the movie. I mean, it's not like they're throwing back in a bad character or a bad actor.
Yeah.
He's still a great character and great to have him in it. But you're right in the sense that there's a lot of. I do think the ending, this concluding bit where Jack is, I guess, forced to sacrifice himself, which doesn't really have the same weight to it. And then they kind of go off to the voodoo lady's shack, and then Barbosa comes back. It is all a bit like. It's just a bit like it's not the strongest ending, I feel.
It sets up the next movie well, but it's just not that. It's just not that like I don't know. It feels kind of like it feels like they just kind of knew what they wanted to do with the next movie, where they wanted that sort of saving him from the locker, from Davy Jones's locker, and so they just like they were like, well, we need to have this happen. But other than that, yeah, I don't know. Other than that, I thought it was it's a pretty solid ending.
Yeah.
Very, very good action piece, even if it goes on for like 40 minutes or in total. Yeah, I mean, I was intrigued to see the sequel and to see how they get him out. So
yeah, I mean, to be fair, it does do very good. What a lot of middle films kind of have to do. It does well in the sense that it's setting up well for the finale. And it doesn't feel too kind of blocky. Like a lot of films where they're like, okay, we know how this is kind of going to end, or we know we got to do this big ending movie. But so the middle one kind of feels like it's just kind of setting up for that one without feeling like a film in itself. But I think still you could I mean, I don't know why you would, but you could still watch this movie as a standalone, and it still holds up on its own merits. You know, it's not just oh yeah that middle film that you got to watch in order to understand what's happening in the next one. It's in itself has a lot of merit and a lot of fun to it.
Definitely. Fine. I mean, do you have any final overall thoughts, or should we just go into ratings?
Trying to think of anything else we haven't touched on.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just like to summarize my thoughts. In my opinion, this is just like a good continuation of the series. I think the action is the best in the entire trilogy, well, in the entire series as well. But we'll get to that. Yeah, I think this is just a really good continuation of the series. Really good sequel.
Yeah.
I would give it another 7 out of 10.
I'm also going to give it the same rating as before, an 8 out of 10. I think. I think continues on just like the last.
Absolutely. And with that fair rating, do you want to lead us into the third and final film in the series?
The finale, Pirates of the Caribbean, At World's End from 2007, which is the last. Didn't make as much back as the middle. The middle one is still the highest grossing one at 1 billion. This one made just shy at 906 the odd million, but it's still from a budget of 3 million. So it made $600 million though still.
Yeah.
So by no means did Disney go into the red on this one. Yeah. So this all the same. I think it is. Yes, it is directed by the same. Well, Gore Verbinski does.
Gore Verbinski, yeah.
Does all of them, and it's all the same cast basically. I think I don't know really anyone particularly interesting into these.
No, it doesn't.
Really care about.
Unlike in the the move from the first to the second, there's not really any major characters introduced here.
No.
Same villains.
Well, not really. Exact same villains, which is the opening for this movie. His like whole setup is that Beckett's like he's like crack down on all like piracy, like he's just like executing loads of people who are like assault. I think they're there's this whole thing they would like read now. It's like if you associate with a pirate, you're also condemned to death. And whilst it's happening, Davy Jones is destroying every pirate ship like he can find.
Yeah, they sort of like teamed up, haven't they? Which that's
well,
not teamed up, but you know what I mean. Like
well,
they've made a
Norrington
sort of deal. Yeah.
In the end of the second one, Norrington actually gets the heart, and now
that's right. I forgot to mention
brought it to Beckett, and he's got like his back to being a Commodore, and with that Beckett now controls the seas because he controls Davy Jones and thus the Kraken. And this is the only thing this is one of my kind of slight nitpicks with this movie. So the whole thing is that like basically Davy Jones is now forced to take orders from Beckett, and the idea is that they've sort of like he's like being coerced, but he also has a deal in the sense that like Beckett's like, if you work for me and you take orders from me, I'll get you Jack Sparrow. He's like, you can have him as part of the debt in this whole thing when we win, but you also have to take all the orders from me. And it's kind of a bit like they do certainly butt heads a lot in this movie, which is it's always fun. It adds a lot of tension between the two villains, but I don't like that in the time between the two movies, they just kind of say, oh yeah, Beckett just told Davy Jones to kill the Kraken, which is like I don't like it. I really do understand what the logic was. Obviously they were like, okay, if the Kraken's still in play in this entire movie, I think the heroes are fucked. Like they're not winning this, right? So, and I guess the logic is that Beckett doesn't want the Kraken around because I mean, it's a Kraken, and I guess he's like, well, it's not very good if this goes wrong, and like Davy Jones turns on me. I don't exactly want the Kraken to be around, but I don't know. I just don't like how they're just like, oh yeah, and it was killed off screen. It's like, cool, that's fun. And it just kind of, it slightly drags on Davy Jones. And I don't think like his character is exactly kind of ruined or anything by this movie, but I do think there's a lot of bits where you kind of like, it's just not as intimidating as he was in Dead Man's Chest. I think some points in this movie, he's just like, now that Beckett is kind of controlling him, he just has that issue where you're like, this is it's now shifted its focus from David Jones being the main villain to now Beckett being the main villain. And I really like Beckett as a character. He's lots of fun.
Oh yeah, no, he's great.
He's great, but it just changes slightly the villain dynamic, and it's good and bad, if you know what I mean. As in, it's just a case of, I think one character is slightly lost for another, and I guess that just goes down to what character do you like more.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. And also just like, I mean, I don't know. It does sort of like weaken Davy Jones's like mystique and his stage presence, for lack of a better term, to have him cooperating with. I understand that he's being held at ransom basically because they literally have his heart, but. But I think on the other hand, it works really well for Beckett's character. I think it really works with, like, I mean, the British Indian Trading Company or East Indian Trading Company it's just perfect for that sort of like thing that, like, yeah, of course he's working with Davy Jones, just the most like vile and like ruthless villain in all the seas, and he's like, well, there's profit in it, so I think it works really well for his character. But I guess in terms of the plot of this film, this nearly 3-hour film.
Yeah, God, it's long.
It's a long movie. And
I don't think it needs to be 3 hours.
Well, yeah, it doesn't really need to be 3 hours, but it is that long because it's kind of 2 movies in one, in the sense that there are like 2 big story arcs that it goes through. The first being they break Jack Sparrow out of Davy Jones' locker, and that's its whole adventure of its own. And then the second is this entire story, this entire like arc of them, meeting all the other major pirate crews at this like pirate headquarters.
It's like the Brethren Court. They're like the 9 pirate lords or whatever it is, or I think it's 9. I don't remember how many, but yeah, all these like crews to kind of fight Davy Jones and the East India Company.
Yeah. And there's like a cool opening action scene in Singapore.
They're like in this bathhouse with these kind of like,
There's kind of like a tasteless joke where like they're looking up Keira Knightley's skirt, which is a little bit.
Yeah. Oh god, yeah, that's.
And then like and then he gets his friend to come and look, and it's like they've moved. It's this like big, like almost sumo wrestler type dude.
Yeah.
And he's like he just it's not very tasteful, but
yeah, I mean there's
broad comedy, I guess.
Yeah, very true, actually, very true.
But one thing I like is that I like how they immediately explain, and also explain in kind of a satisfying way, why they can bring Barbossa back from the dead but not Jack. Because Jack is in Davy Jones's locker, whereas Barbossa was just dead. He'd just been shot. And I think that's, if you're in a world where you can bring people back from the dead, then, that's an explanation that I'm satisfied with.
Yeah.
I feel like they probably should have explained it beforehand, but I guess they wanted to end on that sort of like ending sting of Barbossa walking into the room and not have it ruined by a final kick of exposition.
I know what you mean.
But yeah, I guess we should start with the first movie in this one movie, which is the the saving of Jack Sparrow, shouldn't we?
So it's like in this is like in the, they say it's Davy Jones' locker, which is kind of just meant to be like the, I guess, land of the dead for, I guess, pirates and sailors or whatever.
Yeah, people lost at sea, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that's the logic. And then he's like, which take place in a, like, it's like the Sahara Desert basically. He's in
Yeah.
on
With
the
like
Black Pearl.
salt plains, it's more like
Yeah,
salt plains.
yeah, very true actually. Sorry, it's and this is part of like the kind of, I don't really understand why they started doing this in this film. I don't dislike it for his character, but they start to make Jack Sparrow like go insane slightly, or just have moments where he's like
Yeah, I
going
mean, to
insane.
be fair, I think that the insanity is induced by the fact that he's in the locker.
I think that's the
Like I
logic.
think he's
Yeah,
having
yeah.
a psychotic episode because he's in the locker, and so he's
Or
like
he's like
seeing all
talking to
these like
himself.
yeah, all of these doubles of himself. And this is maybe one of my favorite sections in the movie to be just because I like how quirky and weird it is. I like the sort of like
It is very strange. I agree. Yes.
I like the setting of it in these salt plains, and yeah, I think it's just fun and interesting and weird that like they put like a weird hallucination slash dream sequence in the middle of this major blockbuster movie. Um, yeah, I thought it was really cool.
It's bold. Um, whilst this is happening, they kind of the Barbosa and the crew, like what was left over of Jack's crew, plus these like Singaporean pirates that go with them after they're like attacked by the East India Trading Company in Singapore, kind of join them on this kind of junk, this like Chinese junk. Plus they're like sailing into it. And there's a bit where they kind of, I guess, go over the edge of the world. Yeah, they go over the edge of the world, which takes, well, they go through like, I do. Part of what I was talking about that they have is they just have some great slapstick comedy. And they're going through this like icy wasteland. There's one of the like Singaporean pirates. He like fully takes off his big toe from his foot. Like it's just
Yes.
I do love a bit of just complete cartoon violence. Like they just cleanly snaps off. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, that's great.
After Jack gets, yeah, the crabs bring the black pearl over these sand dunes. They all kind of join him on the ship as they sail back into the lands of the living. Which, whilst that's happening, they have that moment where Elizabeth finds out her dad's being executed by Beckett after he was kind of 'cause I think in the second film there's a brief, again, just showing how much just stuff there is in these films, where he has that brief moment where he kind of joins back up with Beckett and works as, like, I don't know, a governor, in order to save himself from dying. But I think in this movie there's a bit where he's like disagreeing with them because I think they're, oh no, it's he knows about what the heart is, so they kill him off to just, to kind of, Beckett kills him off to tie up loose ends.
Yeah, it's a cool scene where they just pass by him and he's like talking, but he's not really there because he's dead.
Yeah, yeah. Although I do think, sadly for the scene, I do think Keira Knightley is kind of like, can you just put a little bit more
Yeah,
into it? You know what I mean? Isn't it? It sadly is part of the kind of the slight woodenness to Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom, where you're like, I get the emotion I recognize
you're
the
going for.
emotion you're trying to give off, but it's not fully there compared to everyone, compared to
Yeah,
a lot of the scenes, especially really, Davy Jones really shows later on in this movie, like, kind of the level of emotion you have to show in order to kind of, I don't want to say compete because that's definitely not the right way to describe it, but isn't to in order to work on the same level as a lot of the actors in this, in
Right.
terms of the just
In
amount
order to just
you got to do.
in order to just match what is being established in the
Yes,
um
yeah, most certainly.
but yeah, um I guess, and then there's like this really long. It's it's a cool scene, especially the sort of like transition back from the locker to the real world. But it's this really quite drawn out action scene for no apparent reason, where they're trying to flip the ship over because they find out that's what they need to do.
Yes.
Um, it goes on for quite a while, and in a movie this long, it's like, can you just cut a few minutes out of this? Like, I find that myself feeling like that in a lot of these things.
Yeah, I mean, especially this one's bad, where it's like the whole process of them rocking, like, I feel like it could have been condensed a little bit more. Just like, didn't need the entire thing of them going up and down and up and down, and then it flips over, and then it has a bit while they're flipping over before it flips back over into the land of the living. Like, it's just so unnecessarily long.
And then okay, so but by this point, just to summarize, by this point in the movie, we've been to Singapore. There's been this entire opening action set piece in Singapore. The Black Pearl crew have teamed up with some of the Singaporean people to go and rescue Jack. They've made their entire journey all the way to the locker. There's been a lengthy Jack hallucination scene. Jack has been rescued from the locker, and now they've just escaped from it. And after all of that, we're only just about halfway through.
I mean, that could be a full movie on its like, like,
Right.
gosh.
And then like there's this whole like plot line where Keira Knightley, and I'm gonna just call her Keira Knightley because it's just Keira Knightley. It's not even, it's barely a
Yeah, I
character, to
mean,
be honest. Where she like gets like sold into sex slavery to the
yeah,
Singaporean
they
British.
make like a deal where, because the Singaporean like leader of these he comes back,
And
and
he sees Keira Knightley. He's like,
he he betrays them whilst working with Beckett, where he gives Jack over to Beckett, and the deal was that Beckett's like, you can have the Black Pearl, um, and then I think I think Barbosa and Turner make a deal with him where they're like, let us go, and you can have Keira Knightley.
yeah,
And he's like, well, that's fine by me. But it lasts all of about 5 seconds before Beckett turns on him, shoots him. He's there's like a cannonball rips through his like, I guess his quarters, and then he's like impaled on the bit of like wood of his ship.
yeah.
And then I don't like, it's it's very servicey. Is as soon as you like watch the entire film, you realize this scene is purely just servicing a point of getting Elizabeth in this scenario, right? Where he's like, oh yeah, you can now be the captain of my, assumably like a fleet, or what's he probably at, like, as in, well, not a fleet, but like, he's just
Yeah.
like, you can be captain of my ship, and then you also get this, you get to be part of like the Brethren Corps or whatever it's called. So you basically get to be like, I don't know, the pirates equivalent of an MP. Like,
Yeah.
like
And yeah,
it's just like, what? Why? Huh?
it's, well, yeah, you know exactly why, because you've seen the film. It's just to get her into that position where she can be a captain, so that later things can happen.
Yeah, but otherwise, just
And
random.
it's like at this point, like the plots of these movies were all of the, like, yeah, like you said, the Singaporean guy betrays the crew, but then he is betrayed by Beckett. It's such a headache with all of these different things going on. It's something that I like in parts, in moderation, these characters with different motivations, and it's interesting because there's these different things going on. Characters aren't just one note, they're not just part of like one crew. It's not just like bad versus, or good versus bad. I like that. But when your movie's 3 hours long and they have all of these new minor characters being introduced, and they're all doing all of this stuff as well, it does get to be a little bit much.
I'd like to mention, while this is all happening, Jack is making a deal with Beckett where he's
yes,
like, you. Well, he's like, yeah, if you let me free, I will lead you to the Brethren Court. And you can be, yeah, like it's just like, well, I'll lead you to them, and then I'll make sure they leave the, because he's like, oh, they have like an indestructible fortress that's like full of like material and supplies that can like just outlast you for like months or years or whatever. Like you can't break through. I'll just lead them all out so they try and fight you, and you can just easily win, right?
right.
And there's, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there's also a brief bit where, oh yes, this is it. Yeah, Elizabeth and the crew of the Singaporean ship, they all get captured and put on the Dutchman,
Yes.
and then which the Dutchman's now partially being crewed by the fish people and also just by some regular soldiers.
Yes.
Which is where we again see Norrington, and we also see those two random Navy guys who are just the kind of comic relief Navy guys.
Yeah.
Who are like their whole characters, they just always kind of, I don't know, bicker with each other. That's kind of their entire character. And it's in the scene where Norrington helps Elizabeth and the crew escape, but is ultimately killed
Yeah.
by, I think he is actually killed by he's killed by Bill Turner, who's now like gone insane because he's like the whole point of the Dutchman is like you become part of the ship, like you just go insane, you just like you serve the ship.
Right.
After like enough years of servitude, I guess.
Yeah. It's yeah, he's just completely lost his mind, and he's just like waiting for his son to show up, but he's just out of it. And yeah, poor Norrington. Yeah, he doesn't get
That's
a single
rough,
break
man.
across these 3 movies. He gets impaled, bleeds out. Yeah, it's not a nice ending. R.I.P. Norrington. I wrote that in my notes.
Yeah, it's. I mean, there's like this brief moment where, I think Davy Jones comes around to try and recruit Norrington into his ship, where he does the whole thing of like, "Do you fear death?" And then he just kind of puts a sword in. It's like his final breath.
Yeah.
He just puts like a sword in Davy Jones, which is kind of badass. Like that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
When he
No,
does
he's
nothing, obviously, because he
yeah.
can't die.
Well, it's a
We
symbolic
can't
ending.
die through that. Yeah, yeah, very true. But he does get the rough end in these movies.
And then I guess we're at this part where they go to Shipwreck Cove.
Yeah, they all meet up where, and it's like this kind of, again, just goes back to I kept mentioning this, just constant, just interesting characters, even if they have like what 3 lines, like all the different pirate lords,
Yeah.
like they're all really really cool. Like, there's like a French guy, and there's like this Chinese lady, and like there's a few other, there's like a Spanish guy. Like they're all very bombastic in the way they look. There is also one rock and roll star amongst them.
Yeah, Keith Richards shows up as
Jack Sparrow's
as
dad.
dad. And as soon as he showed up on the screen, I was like, "Oh, that's Jack Sparrow's dad, isn't it?" And then like they confirm he's like, and she's like been like, she's like this shriveled. No, what's going on there?
Yeah, it's like this shriveled head where he's like, "How's mum?" And it's like this, little.
And he does one of his signature sort of like grimaces or like Johnny Depp expressions.
Which I looked into this. This is like the only movie series he's been in, and
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, I think it actually was a personal request from Depp. I think Depp and him are actually decent enough friends. So I don't actually think Johnny Depp came to him and was like, "Hey man, do you just want to say a few lines in this movie? We'll just dress you up and you'll just kind of do a few things." I do like that they have him playing guitar. while they're
Yeah.
all like kind of discussing their plan.
Right.
He's just, which is that's quite sweet. Like that's cute. I like that. Um, and the dog comes back as well. The dog's also back.
Oh yeah, the dog's back. Speaking of guitars, and this sort of like leads into, I guess, a bigger point. One thing I noticed is in the scene where, like, okay, so to speed through the plot, they ultimately decide, that they have a big debate and then a vote about what they're going to do about this approaching armada, right?
Mm.
Or like the armada that's already formed. They're close enough that they're willing to enter into negotiations. And like, what are we going to do? Are we going to blah blah blah? And they ultimately decide to fight. You know,
Mm.
Keira Knightley gets elected as like the leader because the whole thing is, a
Yeah, the
pirate
Pirate
would
King.
only ever vote for himself. A pirate would only ever vote for himself, but then Johnny Depp, Captain Jack Sparrow, I
Well,
should say. I'm
again.
sorry, Mrs. Sparrow. Yeah, again, but in a different sense, votes for her in a sort of like 1,000 IQ move, and so they go and meet. They go and meet Becca on this little island to basically say as much, right? Um,
Mm.
and like there's like electric guitar in the score, which is
There
like
is, yes.
it's anachronistic, but it's kind of awesome, and also just the entire
Oh, I mean,
score for the series is
Hans
awesome. I mean, it's
Zimmer
incredible.
is legendary for a reason. He's a fantastic composer.
It's iconic. There's so many pieces in there that are just so like recognizable, and you can see why they just carried it over through
Yes,
all the three films.
almost certainly. Only problem with this scene, this is where I come to my another, um, slight nitpicky, poking holes in the logic of this movie. Um, it's it's half funny and half like, so like there's this bit where you've got Barbosa, Keira Knightley, Jack Sparrow, and then you've got Turner and Beckett, and then Davy Jones in a bucket, which so doesn't this kind of go against the whole curse? Obviously, the whole big thing is like, oh, he can only spend, you know, 10 years at he has to spend 10 years at sea and 1 day on land.
Yeah,
But the logic is a bucket of water works. So he's just what allowed in any water body then? Because
yeah. Is
can
he
he be
allowed
in
in
a
a swimming
lake? Can he
pool?
like? Yeah, it's the one bit like thing where I go, that is just like they should have done it just a little. What they should have done is they should have had him standing. I don't know, or maybe they had it on a ship or something. Like I get where they. It's a very cool
Yeah,
shot. It's a cool scene where they have the whole three of them and they're kind of like discussing and they're kind of making deals and whatever. And they ultimately decide to swap Turner for Jack Sparrow and they go off on the other way. But like it's just like it just puts a lot of holes in the logic of the movie.
yeah. No, absolutely. And when you think about it too much, like if I spill a glass of water in my house, can Davy Jones come in because I stand in the bits where I spill water? What's the logic here? I guess you don't need to think about it too much. And in terms of
Yeah,
not thinking about the logic too much, look at the size of that fucking armada the British come up with. I mean, that's more ships than probably there have ever been in all of the world, right?
yeah. I mean, it's a
It's
lot,
like
and
it's a
yeah,
comically large armada. Um,
it is. It is.
and then And I guess that's the climax. I get it's the climax of the trilogy, but you are sacrificing a little bit of the sort of tangibility for the spectacle.
Yeah, I definitely think. Well, this is definitely where, especially this end bit, where they do kind of jump the shark a little bit in terms of just
Yeah, because
the craziness. I think is probably the
the
best way to
main
describe it.
the main battle is like the Pearl goes into conflict with the Dutchman, and it like
Mm.
forms around this like massive whirlpool
Well, yeah,
because
yes,
they back
yeah.
Calypso.
Who is
The
Turns out the kind of the voodoo Jamaican lady is actually like the god of the sea,
yeah
who's been like bound by um all these pirates into like human form. Uh, and there's a brief bit which I was going to talk about earlier, um, which is the scene while they're discussing the whole the Pirate King thing, and should they go to war or whatever. There's this bit where Davy Jones like comes to see her.
Mm.
And that's what I was saying before of like the caliber of some of these actors in terms of their emotional range. There's like this really good scene where they're kind of talking about how they kind of because the whole point of why Davy Jones went like it kind of turned into this like evil crazy man was that he was like in love with Calypso, but when he like came to land, she wasn't there. Um, but yeah, just the emotional range from Bill Nye is pretty amazing in that scene.
Yes.
Without really, just a lot of it's purely facial expression, which is kind of amazing. Just how much he's able to kind of show.
You know, it's a very good scene, and it's an interesting sort of like dynamic. I like that it's sort of like, you know, the ultimate failing of these two powerful creatures is love. You know, it's cute and it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
It works well within the sort of like um, the sort of mythological nature of these stories and these characters and these this world. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Certainly.
Um, but yeah, so because Calypso is summoned, she like I don't know, fucking whirlpool, and they're fighting around this whirlpool, and all this shit's going on. There's okay, you can't even get into like the details because it just goes on for so long. But
Mm-hmm.
one bit that I found a little cringy, and not in sort of like a fun way, just in sort of like a cringy way, is how Will and Elizabeth get married during this fight because Barbosa, is it Barbosa? I think it's
Yeah,
Barbosa marries them.
yeah.
It's dumb. They're like fighting
Well,
and then
whilst they're
saying their
fighting, they're
wedding,
also getting married.
saying
Which
their wedding
I
vows.
think the other problem with this is, and this is kind of an ongoing thing from the end of the second movie throughout this one. The end of
Yeah,
the second one is this whole thing of where, obviously, when Keira Knightley like buys up Jack, she like in order to lure him, she kisses him, right?
yeah,
And Will sees this, right? And then also like, so it creates there's a rift, and there's like this kind of bit where they're like, I really don't like it where Keira Knightley's like, oh, does she love Sparrow? Does she love Turner?
right.
It's just like
Yeah,
this plot did not also need a
a
sort
love
of
triangle.
half-life triangle mixed into it. And there's a lot of the third movie. Orlando Bloom, Keira Knightley, they're like basically not on speaking terms for a lot of this. And there's a whole bit where they're like, you lied to me or you didn't tell me that you were gonna do this. You know,
Right.
we're gonna make these decisions together. And then just at the end, they're like, we love each other. Can you please get us married? It's
A
like
lot. A lot of it
I
comes down to just like she's a very messy character. She's all over the place. She's sort of
it
just
is.
she's not very well defined. Neither is he. He's a little bit more well defined, but she's just not very well defined at all. They don't really know what to do with her. They just sort of like, oh, she's a hot woman. She'll like I don't know, not the most not the most.
Yeah. No,
But
she does not. She's the only one I think really who technically isn't given that much of a conclusive character.
yeah, but it's a cool action scene. Like there's lots of fun stuff in there. It drags on a long time, but you know, still, um, and it ends with because Will's already been sort of like pretty mortally wounded. He stabs the heart of Davy Jones to take his place. Um, that sort of brings an end to everything, doesn't it? That's like the final blow.
Yeah, it's like there's like a bit where, and it's kind of a continuation of almost the final action scene of the second movie where, and like you said, yeah, by the end of these movies, Turner and Sparrow almost like, yeah, they're like, oh, like they're in this, yeah, they're in this kind of weird state, which I kind of like, where they're not exactly allies, they're not
Mm,
exactly friends, but you wouldn't call them necessarily enemy. Like they don't like each other, and they kind of find themselves competing over the same sort of things. And the heart is one of them where Sparrow at this point is now like he's considering becoming the new Captain of the Dutchman,
Yeah.
and but also so is Turner because he wants to free his father.
But yeah.
So there's a bit where Sparrow is fighting Davy Jones to try and get the heart, but then Turner, jumps on the ship, and then also does Keira Knightley jump on the ship to save him to try and help
Yeah.
Will, and like all three of them are kind of fighting Jones, and again it's very good action, but it's also very complicated and
Yeah.
there's a lot of moving parts in this movie.
But it ends with a very sort of like after the Dutchman sinks and then it's sort of resurrected with Will as its captain. There's a very sort of satisfying final hurrah where they just blow the shit out of Beckett's
I
ship.
do like that. It is very cool, the kind of just complete destruction. But I do love the bit where the Dutchman like rises back from the depths, and there's that kind of brief moment where he's like we've got this, brilliant, and then he slowly realizes that the Dutchman's no longer on his side.
Right.
And there's
he's
that
just
whole bit where it's like
he just like,
orders, Captain, and
what do we
he's
do?
just petrified almost.
He just turns into a babbling mess, yeah, and then he just gets
Yeah.
blown to smithereens. It doesn't really make sense that the entire armada flees after that.
Yes,
I mean,
I was
still
gonna say something like that.
they're still vastly, it's the favorites in the battle, but and like everyone important survived, everyone even mildly important survived. Again, Stranger Things syndrome.
Yeah.
And the other problem is that I just don't care that much about this. Like, one of the big emotional things is like, oh, Will and Elizabeth won't be able to, grow happy together or whatever because of the curse of the Dutchman. But I don't care that much because I don't care about their characters.
Yeah, I'm just like,
I'm far more interested
boring.
in the conclusion of my more interesting characters or my more favorite characters, Captain Jack Sparrow and Barbossa, where Barbossa gets the Black Pearl back, and he's like, well, we're going to follow this map to the Fountain of Youth.
Yes.
But then Jack's like cut the map out or whatever, and so it's like, Barbossa got the ship, but Jack got the last laugh, and I like that sort of like I like their dynamics throughout the movies, where like in the first one they're like clear enemies and they're like fighting each other, but from then on it's more of like a rivalry than enemies. And they're just sort of like they'd probably still kill one another if they had to, but I like the sort of like tit for tat sort of give and take. And isn't the final scene? It's just Jack in his little rowboat with the map.
If I'm not mistaken, there is a post-credit scene, but yes, that is the final scene.
Oh yeah, what's the post-credit scene?
It's just a post-credit scene where they just go, oh, Will and Elizabeth had a son.
Ah yes.
That's
Good
it.
for
That's
them.
just it.
Well,
Just like,
that comes
they had a
back.
son. Oh, well. This will come into effect in the later movies, but
But yeah.
but really,
I guess it's not that important. None of the post-credit scenes are that important. I mean, in the second one, it was just the dog, so yeah.
yeah, exactly.
I did. I guess we can go into final wrap-up discussions now, and then we'll briefly talk about the other two films. I liked this movie a lot still, but I did write as my final note. I did write "finally over!" exclamation mark. And a lot of my notes are talking about how much time is still left in the movie. I think that just the combination of the fact that this movie leans a lot into the spectacle, or in basically every case, and there's a lot more like just sort of like over the top CGI sort of schlocky action. It's still fun, but it loses some of the charm of the first two.
Yes.
And it's also just it can't justify that fucking runtime, man. It's like a Scorsese level runtime. Like if you're gonna make a 3-hour movie, it should be like a Godfather. You know what I mean? Like it should be an epic, like a Apocalypse Now or fucking Lawrence of Arabia. It doesn't justify that runtime for me.
Yeah.
And when you're reaching 3 hours, you really feel it. But that being said,
God,
I don't I don't feel like it does. It does enough wrong to really lose too many points for me. I rated this a 6 out of 10, but I feel like it's still a relatively strong 6 out of 10. I don't think it's significantly worse than the first two, but I think it's the weakest of the three. My favorite, incidentally, is probably the second one. How about you?
I think my logic is basically the same.
Yeah.
So I will be going with a 7 out of 10. Yeah, I think the spectacle is really good. Like, do not get me wrong, I don't mind the spectacle, but when you don't actually have any of the meat and potatoes of a film, or sorry, it does have that, but it slightly loses that in going for this grand finale. It does just drag a little, just one, like I said, 1 point. It just drags 1 point in my review, and I think a lot of the ending, specifically of this movie, is really well, sorry, not the final ending bit, but a lot of the kind of end bit and a lot of this film because is focused on closing up the relationship between Elizabeth and Turner, and I don't think it's done particularly well in the sense that they just kind of go, we don't really like each other. Oh, we actually we love each other and we're gonna get married. I just like this movie was already complicated. It didn't need a love triangle that merges into a will they, won't they, on top of all the millions of deals being struck between people, and then all the action and everything. Like it's just too much. That bits got lost, and thankfully it was a relationship that got lost. I mean, if there's anything in this movie you can cut out, it is those bits. So to be fair, they had the right decision on that front, but still, it is just like,
Yeah.
God, not necessary. Just more shit that's not necessary in this movie.
I completely agree. And with that, we complete the original trilogy. Well done, us.
We do.
I'm just going to quickly. I think what we'll do is I'm not going to talk about these films individually. I'll just throw them. I'll throw 2011's Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides, and then 2017's Dead Men Tell No Tales or Salazar's Revenge, depending on, I don't know where you look. There's two titles for it.
Well, I watched them. I don't know when I watched them, but I have watched them. It was a while back.
Yeah. I'll just give my overall thoughts. You can jump in if you have anything, or give yours at the end. They're not great. Point blank, they're not great. No. The first one, or I should say the fourth one on Stranger Tides, is just kind of middling. It's all right. I gave it a 4 out of 10. There's nothing offensive about it. But as much as I felt like Will Turner and Elizabeth Swann aren't that great characters, I feel like their attempts to replace them throughout the others are even worse. It's got, what's her name? Penelope Cruz, who plays like this Spanish seductress. I don't know. And they're going to find the Fountain of Youth. Sorry, it's just it's not that interesting. It's kind of boring. It's just like a watered down version of maybe like the second Pirates of the Caribbean. Not that great. And the fifth one is like straight up bad. So boring. It's about like Will Turner's son trying to rescue his father, I guess. Johnny Depp clearly does not give a shit. I gave it a 3 out of 10. It's just so luckily it's the shortest of the entire series, but it's oh my god, it's so dull. Even what's his name? Javier Bardem as the main villain, even he's boring.
Oh god,
and also
that's laughably bad that you have to do that.
Jeffrey Rush dies, so that sucks.
Well, fucking useless. Yeah, well, I'm sure they'll bring him back for 6 or whatever.
Yeah, I'm sure they do tease a 6th as well. So fucking Jesus Christ.
Apparently, it's just going to be reboot, so maybe it's not going to be any of the characters from.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, that's my thoughts on those films. They're not good. They're just boring.
No. Yeah. They're just kind of let's be honest. At the end of the day, it was just Disney thinking
cash grab.
Cash, yeah. That's when it started to turn into a cash grab. And I think, let's be honest, at that point, I think people were just done with pirates movies. It's a bit like what's happening to a lot of
Marvel stuff. Absolute killing, though.
Kind of starting to get done with
Yeah.
Just the, like the kind of the concept, it just tires with these kind of films. And yeah, if I remember correctly from watching it, I think On Strange Tides was just like they replaced most of the cast other than Depp and maybe I don't know, maybe some other people are there. Maybe they're from the trilogy. If I remember, it's all just kind of like everyone feels like they're kind of phoning it in.
Yeah.
And I think the last one I think is I guess a bit more visually interesting with the crew that I think are like they're like zombie crew. I mean, already done. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we've already did it with the skeleton crew, and I think if I remember correctly, they looked a lot. The skeletons from 2003 just looked a lot more visually interesting than the
Yeah. From
zombie Spanish
2017. Yeah.
crew from 2017. So that's embarrassing. And yeah, I think if I remember correctly, Bardem was very flat.
Yeah. He's
He's a
he's
bit
kind
of
of
a like
just like
he's
R-rated
an
Bardem, to be honest.
he's he's an interesting actor in the sense that he's really good at playing two opposites. If you know what I mean, as in, I think like he plays a lot of subtle characters sometimes, like very very subtle, like in I keep blanking on the famous one he's in with the
No Country for Old
guy
Men.
with the cattle gun. That's it.
Yeah.
I apologize for that's a terrible
You're
shame
okay.
on my behalf. A very very yeah that's a very minimalist character. That's a very subtle character where a lot is done with nothing. But I think if I'm correct, a lot of Bardem stuff has also been very over the top characters. So he's in this kind of weird middle ground when he plays that Spanish pirate. Well, no, sorry, he's not a pirate. He's like a Spanish. He's just meant to be like a normal sailor or whatever, or like a
Yeah.
naval officer or whatever. I remember he kind of. It's just like I said, it's just maybe this is more phony in, or he's just a bit off, or they don't know how to play him. But he's like in this weird middle ground where he's just doing nothing. I think in that movie,
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, we already sort of don't really care about Turner and Elizabeth. I'm not gonna care about their son. I'll be honest.
Right.
Like,
Or like the astronomy lady that they
yeah, the
encounter.
random astronomy. Yeah,
It's just boring. I'm just
kind of
never
nothing.
gonna think about those films again.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
anyway, I guess that's it for the pirates. So
There's
shall
Pirates of the Caribbean.
I do my recommendation?
Of course, of course.
So last time, back in October, I asked you whether you wanted to do a single movie or a collection of 3 loosely related films, and you chose single movie, and we did Goodfellas. So now I'm going to do what my other option was going to be.
I see.
And it's kind of irritating. Okay, so what we're doing is something that I'm labeling the Spielberg blockbuster collection, which is we're gonna watch Jaws, Close Encounters, and E.T. Those 3 movies. And I for a while I wanted to do Close Encounters and E.T. because I think they're a really interesting duo, a really interesting combination, which we'll get into. And then I also wanted to add on Jaws because last year was the 50th anniversary of Jaws, and I thought, oh, that would be awesome. And then we never got around to it because we never finished this episode last year. But yes, so those are the movies we'll be watching next episode, hopefully sooner than last time. But for now, it's goodbye from me and Harry.
Sayonara.